Hey guys, so it's been a while since I've done a tag and I recently rediscovered the book buying tag, so I thought I'd do it now because I seem to be buying a lot of books recently. So it's basically a really good chance to just do the book buying tag and reveal a bit about my sort of book buying habits. Number one, where do you buy your books from? Quite a lot of places, to be honest. I go to Waterstones in town or the one in Bluewater, or very, very rarely the really big one up in London. And I also get them from Waterstones online occasionally if it's like a signed version of a book, or I also get quite a lot of Amazon if it's like a Kindle book, or if I just can't find the book anywhere, then I'll buy it off Amazon basically. And if it's a comic book, then sometimes Waterstones, sometimes Amazon, sometimes the charity shop in town which sells loads of like old copies and old comic books. So basically it's just this big mix of places that I go anywhere and everywhere for, basically. Number two, do you ever pre-order books, and do you do this in-store or online? Yes, I do pre-order books, but when I pre-order a book, it's generally either the new book by Tom Fletcher, Carrie Hope Fletcher, or from V.E. Schwab. I don't really pre-order any other books unless I really want them and I have to really want them to pre-order them. And when I do this, generally it's either Waterstones online for Tom and Carrie, because generally they sell the signed versions, and obviously I really want the signed version because I'm a complete fangirl for the two of them, so I get them off the online Waterstones, or if not, I just pre-order it off Amazon because that's the easiest place to go, even though they constantly give it to me late. They're always giving me the books late, but I still do it because I haven't learned. Number three, on average, how many books do you buy a month? It depends on the month, to be honest. I can go 2 or 3 months without buying any books whatsoever. I'm just quite happy reading the ones that I've got. But then, if it's, say, my birthday or January, so there's January sales, or I happen to be going into a big Waterstones or something that I don't usually go to, then I can usually buy quite a few, and I'm talking 6 to 10 at a time. And then if I or my mum goes into the big charity shop where I get all of my comics, well, that can get quite dangerous and I end up buying loads, to be honest. So it's a really sort of like a mixed bag of depending on the month and depending on what I'm actually buying. Number four, do you use your local library? And I'm ashamed to say no, but if I'm allowed to explain, I live in a tiny village and our library is attached to the primary school. It doesn't really have that much in it, if I'm honest. It's got like a few Skullduggery Pleasant books, but I already own those books, and apart from that it doesn't really have anything in there that particularly interests me. And my mum's gotten a few stuff out of there, but generally we don't really bother because we just end up buying books ourselves instead, because otherwise we've then got to try and remember when we've got to get them back and then have to actually go and put them back and stuff. And up until recently that hasn't really worked for us, to be honest, because we've got quite busy lives and stuff, so we don't really have time to strategically read a book because we've got to get it back again. It's easier to buy books and then read them whenever we want. I can skip question 5 because that's about if you do use libraries, how many do you borrow at a time? I don't, so I'll skip on to number 6. What is your opinion on library books? I think library books are great. I think libraries in themselves are brilliant. I would love to work in one day, I reckon. But for me personally, my experience of a library is that it's very small and not particularly useful for me. There's one in like the main town that I live like half an hour away from, but I can't drive, so I can't really get there either. So I just generally don't use it, but I think I will one day, probably if I eventually run out of bookshelf space and I actually find books in there that I really want to read, then I will definitely be using a library. But I do think libraries and library books are amazing things and stuff. It's a great, fantastic idea. Number 7 is, how do you feel about charity shops / second-hand books? To be honest, I don't use charity shops to buy books like this. To be honest, I don't use charity shops to buy physical books like these because I just prefer to buy them brand new when they're all shiny and all the rest of it, and not like spine bent or anything. I prefer to have them like brand new. That being said, if it's comic books, then I love charity shops. We've got one in the centre of town right near where my mum works, and it's amazing because it sells comic books like this. It sells comic books by the boatload. It's got so many in there that easily I can go in there and buy 15 like that, and I don't own any of them, and they're generally quite old comic books and stuff, and they're in reasonably good condition. I've got one that's made out of complete paper and the cover's falling off and everything, but everything else has been unbelievably like well preserved and stuff, and they're in really, really good condition. And it also means that I can buy comic books like this, which were originally $24.99 in the US with no English sticker on them, and I can get stuff like this for like £4 to £6. It's amazing. I absolutely love the charity shop for selling these comics. I've literally got like 30 right next to me here in a massive Paw Patrol bag, because it was the only bag we had strong enough to actually hold them all. But I've got like 30 or 40 in there at the moment that I absolutely love, and I got all of them apart from like 3 from a charity shop, and I love that charity shop for that reason. I can live in there and just raid it practically daily because they've always got new stuff in there, but I absolutely love them. The only thing I have with this is that it sells these comics out of order. So now I've got a list of 39 other comic books that I've got to try and source and buy before I can read some of these comics, which is a bit annoying, but at the same time it means I can access comic books really, really cheaply, and like comic books that I never had heard of or even thought of before, and that's amazing. I mean, I got the Planet Hulk omnibus for like £8 or something, and it should have been like 30, and I cannot say how much I enjoy that charity shop. And if there are any other charity shops in my town with stuff like this, I will love them forever. Essentially, I think they're great. I really do. For comic books, I think charity shops are amazing. But for physical books, I have to say I would prefer like buying them brand new from like Waterstones or Smiths or Amazon or somewhere. Question number 8 is, do you keep your red and TBR pile on the same shelf or do you separate them? And as you can tell by this shelf, it's a mismatch, to be honest. I have books that I have read on this shelf because I've read some of these Scott Darkly Pleasance and The Night Circus. I have not read Soul Screamers, which is behind there. I've only read a couple of the books on this shelf, and then the rest I haven't. I've read Six of Crows and part of Illuminae and Dark Shade of Magic and the Christmasaurus and the Creakers, which are down there and you can't actually see those. But I've read some of the books down here, but I haven't read any of these, or these, or these. And that's wobbling, so I'm going to stop touching that. But most of the books on this shelf I haven't read. I basically just put books where I can put them, essentially. If there's a space, I will put them. And generally, I just sort of, if it's like the same author or like the same series, then I keep them all together. And I try to keep series together and sort of stuff in that sort of way. But other than that, I just put everything everywhere, to be honest. It's just that sort of, here you go, and then I just have to check Goodreads to see what I've read and what I haven't. That being said, though, I did recently move some of these books around and put them in a box that's behind the stand I'm filming on here. And then got some of the books I haven't read out of there and put them up here so I could actually get to them. But that's as far as I get on separating read and to be read, to be honest. I just put things where they fit. Question number 9 is, do you plan to read all the books that you own? I hope so. I mean, I bought them for a reason, so I'm hoping that I'm going to read them all. But to be fair, there are some books that I now own that I'm probably not going to read. Like, I'm probably not going to finish the Morganville Vampire series, which I haven't picked up since 2011, so I'm probably not going to finish those. I'm also probably not going to finish A Series of Unfortunate Events. I own them all, but I find them just a tad bit too samey at the moment. I know the books are getting thicker, so surely we should be getting like more of a storyline, but I find each book quite repetitive of the next one, so I don't know if I'll ever finish those. Some of these books on here I'm probably never going to read, and all of Mum's books I'm probably not going to read, but the books I physically bought I'm hoping to finish. Question number 10 is, what do you do with the books that you think you will never read / do not enjoy? Well, with the books I didn't enjoy, they sort of end up back on the shelf till my mum reads them, generally doesn't like them, and then we say we're going to get rid of them and then never do. So that's the thing, because we have no organisational skills. But saying that, we may actually get rid of a few soon, but mostly they just end up staying on the shelf until we move and then we get rid of them. But hopefully we're not moving for a while, so hopefully we can actually keep them on the shelves, or get rid of them anyway. And then for books that I don't think I'll read, they just end up on the shelf. They just stay there, and I eventually go, I should probably read that. Take, for example, The Darkest Minds. I've had that on my shelf for 2 years now, possibly 3. I've had it on my shelf for a very, very long time, and I'd completely forgotten about it and was kind of going, I may not actually read that. But now that there's a film adaptation coming out this year, I may actually read the book before the film comes out. And it's stuff like that that kind of motivates me to read stuff, because sometimes I go, yeah, I forgot about that book, and then the film adaptation comes out, or there's like a massive surge of hype for it or something, and then I go, yeah, I should actually probably read that. So I sort of keep everything and then hope I get around to reading it at some point. To be honest, I'm terrible for it. You know, that is my actual plan, is to just sort of get to it when the film adaptation comes out, or until I get pressured enough into reading it. Question number 11 is, have you ever donated books? I have when I've moved. If I haven't moved house, then I won't donate books. I mean, I don't just throw books out. If I get rid of books, I will be sending them to a charity shop or to my best friend. But other than that, I don't really donate books regularly. It's just when I move house and I've got to get rid of stuff because we're downsizing yet again. And apart from that, I don't really actually, donate books that often. I should probably donate books more often, but I just don't for some reason. They just end up staying on my shelf for, another 3 years until we move. Question number 12 is, have you ever been on a book buying ban? And yes, I have. And yeah, it lasts a couple of months, and then I end up doing something and going, oh, books, and buying a whole load more. And it's ridiculous. But I will say, with book buying bans, it doesn't count when a favourite author releases a new book. I will buy that book. I'm talking about, I stop myself from hauling a ton of them. Like, for example, at the moment, I'm currently on a ban until the 7th of May, when I'm going up to Europe's largest Waterstones and Foyles in the same day. So then I'm just going to go mad and buy a ton of books, to be honest. And that's going to be great. And after that, I'm on a ban. I'm on a serious ban until I've either read a whole load of these books and gone through at least 20, or until something else happens and I go, oh, books, and buy a whole load more. It's ridiculous. I try to stop myself from buying books, but sometimes I just really, really can't help myself, and I just end up buying loads. And I need to stop. And I do try and put myself on bans, and sometimes it works. It really depends on my mood, how much money I've got, and if I'm anywhere near a Waterstones, or if I'm with a bad influence of a best friend who just buys books constantly, and then I end up buying books with her. So it's a bit of a swingsy roundabout thing. As long as I stay away from the bookstores, I'm fine. But as soon as I go in there, it generally gets broken. And finally, question number 13 is, do you feel like you have too many books? Technically, I feel like I don't have too many books. I just have too little bookshelves. Here's my thing, because we need to redo this entire house and figure out where we're going to put more bookshelves, because we need to get rid of some things and then we can put more bookshelves up. And then once we fill this house with bookshelves and then we fill those bookshelves, then I'll say we have too many books. But until that moment, we don't have too many books. We just have too little bookshelves. On the Kindle, we don't have too many books. There's no such thing as too many books on a Kindle until the Kindle runs out of space. Until then, you don't have too many books. That's just my opinion anyway. As for comic books, you can never have too many comic books. There's no such thing as too many comic books. So, yeah, we don't have too many. We have a nice amount to keep us entertained, but we don't have too many. There's no such thing as too many. So I'm going to say that we have a nice amount, but not too many. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do give me a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below with any of your answers to these questions down below. That'd be great. Or if you've got any tips for avoiding buying books on a book ban, please tell me that down below, because I need those tips, quite frankly. I desperately need those tips. So comment that down below. I'll also leave a link to all of my social media in the description if you want to check any of that out. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here. And over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time, guys, bye.